Welcome to Civil Discourse. I'm Marilyn Brown.
And I'm Jayme Wojciechowski.
And we are back, and today we're doing an update. It's been a little bit since we've been with you guys, and we're so happy to be back. And so we just kind of wanted to update you on what we've been up to, what's been going on in our lives, how our 2019 is going so far. So how you doing, Jayme?
I'm doing well. I am very busy. We're actually trying a new format this year where we're doing multiple of these podcasts in one session.
Yes.
Because we've just been so inconsistent because we're both so busy. I just finished production on a film that I'm acting in and wrote and producing, which is good. And I'm recording an EP this year, so we've been ramping up for that to start. We start recording the second week of February, so
Cool.
exciting. Yeah, what about you?
Exciting. I have been busy this year as well. My holiday season was a little slow, and then January I just kind of hit the ground running, and I'm currently working on doing a little rebrand. So part of my brand has been Mindfully She, and I haven't really known exactly what I wanted that to be. And so just in this last year, really trying to pull all the pieces of what I do together in a way that makes sense. I bought my name domain, so I now have marilynjulia.com, and I'm going to be having my therapy site underneath that, and then I'm also adding energy healing services to my therapy practice, which is really exciting. Initially, when I did my Reiki level 2 early last year, and so I've been practicing and doing Reiki healing. I just completed my Reiki master last week, so I'm super excited.
Yay.
Yeah. So I'm super excited about that. And I also completed my crystal healer certification last week as well. And so as a therapist, I'm really excited because I'm able to actually bring that work into the work that I do with my clients and do all of that under my Mindful Way counseling umbrella. And so that's what I've been working on. So I've been doing like web redesign and like creating flyers and kind of just getting things together so that I can launch those services. And then in addition to that, I started a Sisters Healing Circle, a circle group for Black women in the LA community last summer, and it's been going well. But I'm really excited. I've been running it out of my office, but I'm excited because in the next month or two, I actually have been able to secure some space in the community, and so I'm actually going to be expanding that group. It's going to be larger. I was able to secure free space in the community, which is super exciting. And so I'm going to be expanding the circle and doing it's going to turn into a healing circle, but then also like a monthly workshop. And so I'm going to bring in different practitioners to do nutrition workshops, yoga. I'll do some crystal healing training, different things. And so I'm really excited to be able to do that and do that in the community. So that's all happening. And then I'm also starting an online component to that community. So there's kind of a lot going on with my business, but I'm excited because I probably towards the end of last year was feeling a little stagnant and kind of uninspired but disjointed. I felt scattered. I felt like everything was all over the place, and there were these different parts of myself kind of just that didn't make sense, but I'm really pulling everything together this year, and so I'm excited about that. And also writing a lot, and I can't really talk a ton about the writing projects, but they're exciting.
Yeah. Do you find that because so much of what you're doing is rooted in various mindfulness practices that it's helping you stay mindful even though you're so busy all the time?
Yes, so much, 1,000%. I think that because so much of what I'm doing, it's just constantly a reminder. It's like each practice as I'm creating this, I have to be mindful to figure out what's going to work. I really have to tune into my own intuition, and I really had to spend a lot of time even meditating and deeper into my mindfulness to kind of figure out what this was. But all of the pieces of my work that I do, I've been able to bring mindfulness and into it. And I mean to the point where when I go into my office, I open up a healing circle before I start with any of my clients, and so it's really been great. I think I can tell that what I'm doing is really in alignment with where I'm supposed to be, because I feel like what I do really heals me as well. And so, yeah, I love that part of it.
Yeah, it's been interesting because the vast majority of what's been keeping me so busy isn't anything related to mindfulness. But with the producing my film and recording the album, I've also been getting just a ton of opportunity this year to stunt coordinate. And it's interesting because it's not something I've ever tried to pursue. I kind of just did it as a thing I always enjoyed doing.
Right.
And then jobs kind of just started coming in the more people I met, but I've never tried to pursue it. So this is the first year that I'm kind of, I think, more active in trying to get work. But something interesting happened where I was working with some actors on a fight, and one of them made a comment about how they liked how mindful they thought my process was. And it was just so interesting because I think for me it's been a struggle, and I've been trying my best to kind of keep my mindfulness practice going, but I've felt very distant from it. So it was just an interesting reminder from someone that even though I was feeling distant, it kind of seeps into everything I do.
Yeah.
Which was just it's a very nice kind of warm moment for me.
That is. Yeah, definitely. Do you find that with stunt coordination that, like, I can imagine that you do bring your mindfulness tools into it. Like, I wonder what tools of mindfulness you feel like you've kind of naturally used in that process of coordinating stunts. Like, how do you think up?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I've never really thought about it like this. But I think the reason I was drawn to it was because it has kind of this built-in mindfulness structure. And even a lot of, you go to Zen practice, Aikido practice, which is very much based in Zen meditation, and they use weapons training as a way to cultivate mindfulness. And I think the biggest difference for me between kind of stunt violence and fighting versus actual violence as fighting is when you're actually being violent and fighting someone, it's two opposing sides going at each other. But to be able to accomplish that in the stunt world in a way that's fake but creates a story, it's 100% about being able to work in unison with your partner, with your partners. So it's almost like a dance in a way where you're really reacting and acting based on the energy and what other people are giving you. And if there's a disconnect there, that's when things start to, one, become dangerous, and to not look good on stage or on film.
Right. So it's really like an energetic kind of give and take, and you have to be mindful and pay attention to like what that process is like. And yeah, that's really interesting to me. That's so cool that you're doing that. And I find that a lot of times the things that we don't actually seek out but just kind of like naturally fall into can sometimes be like the things that are like a really good intersection of the skills and just kind of who we are, but that we maybe would have missed because like we're not looking at ourselves in that way.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people too, it's about being open, right? Because I know a lot of people who in the same situation would have turned down a lot of great opportunities because that wasn't their focus, or they didn't want to actively pursue that, so they would shut it down.
Right.
As
or
opposed
fear
to
of, failure, fear of, this isn't, can I do this? Can I show up for this? Imposter syndrome kind of thinking to really cause someone to just be unwilling and just kind of say no. And yeah, I think you're right. That openness and that like willing hands kind of posture in life really, creates these opportunities.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring up the kind of insecurity of it, because I feel that a lot in that as an actor, because I kind of label myself as an actor, and that's where I put most of my energy and kind of see myself. I'm pretty confident. I get a job and I think, oh, I can do this. Like, there's insecurities that go along with it and nerves, of course. But for the most part, I feel very capable. And when the stunt stuff happened, and even through now, there's still a lot of, well, I'm not actually qualified to do this. even though I am, I just don't feel like I am because I've never looked at it from the perspective of this is part of my career.
Right, right. Yeah, that framework really does change a lot of things. I think that that really is, a reflection of why I feel very confident, like starting a group, which is basically what I did over the summer because I've been a therapist for a long time. This is what I've trained for, this is what I've been doing, and I actually miss running groups versus what actually really has been kind of pulling me, what my intuition has been pulling me to do, which is more to like create a community space, kind of create community and create an online community of support. And that's something that like I don't feel like I know how to do. I've never seen myself as a community organizer or an activist or somebody that really can can kind of create change in that setting. And so even though that's what I feel like my intuition is pulling me towards, there's resistance because I'm like, well, no, can I just keep this group going and just create this nice safe space of 10 Black women who are supporting each other, but realizing, but no, this is actually supposed to go somewhere else, and having to give myself permission to like be guided and like challenge the fear when it comes up, or just look at it and keep going anyway. You know what I mean? See the fear, like recognize that it's there and just kind of keep moving. But that's kind of been my experience. And then I'm realizing, well, yeah, I haven't trained for this. This isn't something that I've really ever seen myself doing. Even though this is what a big part of me wants to do. So yeah, it's interesting how we doubt ourselves when we haven't looked at ourselves in that context before.
Right. There's actually, I wonder if I have it here, a quote that this reminds me of. It says, "One is not afraid of the unknown. One is afraid of the known coming to the end."
Woo! If
and I think
that's
that's very...
true. True, yeah. Even if the known is uncomfortable and we're like, I want bigger than this known. I want more than this known. I want, even though we oftentimes want more than what we know, there's still so much fear related to actually taking that leap.
Yeah, I think it's the expectation, right? When it's known, we know what to expect. When it's unknown, even if we want it, there's a fear because we don't know what is going to happen.
Right.
And I think
we have our go ahead.
No, I just think we live in a culture that really it's interesting because we're so focused on success, but at the same time we're so taught to play it safe, and we never learn really how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right. Which is just fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's such an interesting way that we've kind of grown accustomed to functioning, and I think that I don't know that this is like by design at all, and I don't know that there was like some nefarious decision that was made a long time ago, but I do think that like that conditioning keeps so many people so small, and I feel like it keeps the imbalance so extreme. It's kind of like this like we're all kind of taught this lie that like really your dreams aren't actually possible. You really just need to like continue to do the status quo, like maybe take a couple of chances, but don't like step too far out of the box. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's interesting to me to kind of think about that. Like, I don't know, like where did that come from?
Yeah. I think it's what's fascinating to me is the duality of it in our culture, because I feel like we are told constantly about kind of the capitalist like innovations and taking risks to succeed, and that's how you advance society. But at the same time, we're taught to blend in and not rock the boat and all these things, and they kind of counter the messages we're getting counter. And I don't know. I mean, my instinct says it stems just from our power structure, in that those in power want us to flourish, but also want to maintain power. So then you get those varied messages, because to have the wealth and the innovation that kind of has defined us, you need people willing to take those risks. But at the same time, every time someone does that, it threatens the power structure that exists. So then there's a weird kind of pushback and counter narrative, and just makes everyone very confused.
Yeah, yeah. I think it speaks to that duality of like humans in general. It's kind of that constant conflict. Like we want, it's like that ego versus spirit kind of war that's going on. Whether it's with the power structure of like we want us to flourish, but not too much to threaten me. So yeah, I think it speaks to just kind of that struggle altogether.
Nice. Do we have any? I mean, this is going to be a short one, but I think we've touched on some nice things, especially to lead into our next topic in the next podcast, which is kind of on attachment and love, and how those relate or don't relate. So that's what we'll be talking about next week.
Yes, we'll see you guys next week.
Do we have homework? I mean,
you know what? I feel like I would like to check in with people. I know I use this term really briefly, but I wonder if people are familiar with the term imposter syndrome, because I think that's a little bit of what we touched on. Are you familiar with the term imposter syndrome?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I wonder if that's something that people have noticed come up in their own lives, just when they're in their confidence in certain areas. And it can come up in big things, work related, and it can come up in these little areas of just like, insecurity around taking a different route or doing something different in your life. So I'm just kind of curious about what people's experience has been with imposter syndrome.
Yeah, or on the other side of that, it's interesting because the opposite of that to me is the Zen concept of beginner's mind.
Yes.
And kind of one of the biggest things in Zen practice that I think people in the West kind of struggle with is feeling, I don't even know what the word is, because content's not the word, but embracing the idea of being a beginner and seeing everything kind of through fresh eyes, as opposed to our desire to be masters of everything. So it kind of counters that, because when you're not comfortable with beginner's mind, you end up sabotaging yourself and feeling like you're not good enough all the time or not ready. So beyond beginner that
versus imposter syndrome, kind of.
Yeah. And kind of where you are on the journey, that's kind of what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay. Cool. Well, have a wonderful week, everybody, and we will be back next week.
See you guys next week.